Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Evelyn O'Shorty. This is Whiskey. She's probably going to be hanging around because she's got a little comfy spot right in front of me here. And yeah, you can see what's going to be happening for the rest of this review, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, for anyone who comes to watch these when I'm doing it at home because I want to see my dog, unfortunately, my dog is terrified of this cat, so she'll stay over there out of the way for now. So anyway, that's out of the way. What am I doing today? Well, I'm reviewing the DC Universe. Now, straight away, I have to make a confession for you. For anyone who watches these videos, listens to the podcast, or just comes into my shop, think, wow, that's a stunningly charming, attractive young man who clearly knows an awful lot about comic books. Well, you're wrong on all three of those. Pretty much the only reason I'm really good at running comic book stories, I actually got a lot of experience doing retail, working in retail, including management level. That and the fact that because I'm not really heavily into comic books, I'm actually quite open to have my mind changed, and I don't have any really thoughts on stuff. So when it comes to studying the history of the DC universe, the other history, it might as well just be the history for me. Yeah, I know Superman came from another planet. I know Batman's parents were killed in Crime Alley. Yeah, I know the basics, absolutely fine, but a whole bunch of detail in there is just not something that I really pay much attention to. I love just reading comic books, and I don't particularly worry about anything that's gone before. So we knew this universe straight away. It was like, well, this is probably going to make me feel guilty because I predominantly still to this day read stuff where the main character is male and white, and written and art and edited and produced and company owned by people who are male and white. And yeah, it's kind of nice that it didn't do that. And I don't mean to say that it never does that. Like, there's some really hardcore bits in there where it pushes that thing forward, but it's done for very good reasons. It's all Black Lightning, who's a character which is got quite a nice history, which I've been finding out about, and it's not a simple, straightforward history. It's not like, get powers, do things, get asked to join the Justice League. There's stuff going in there where apparently they had to have a discussion Justice League about what it'd be like to have a black person in, even though they literally had a Martian. And it's like, oh yeah. And the way he describes his first encounter with John Stewart, the token backup replacement to Green Lantern, and when Superman first arrives, and there's a lot going on there, which is kind of fun to unpack, just in and of itself. I think if I was to go back and compare it to actual history of the DC universe and think to myself, well, what was actually going on, how are people writing about it, it'd be really easy to kind of get bogged down into the differences between that and this. Simply because the people writing at the time were writing from their own points of view, and it's really hard to not use the word privilege at this point. I mean, the comic uses the word privilege quite a lot, and it's done very, very effectively. But it doesn't just... that's the wrong word. Not just. It doesn't allow itself to become just that. Yeah, just was right at that time. It is about a person who's a product of their time, and who has to make some really difficult choices and has to then live with those choices and live with the repercussions of them, and is fallible in ways that are very, very human, which is quite nice, and quite often in ways that we would, not really be comfortable seeing Superman behave. His encounters with Superman are actually particularly noteworthy, and his thoughts on those kind of superheroes. There's an awful lot to unpack just on the politics and nature of what they're doing with this, and I don't feel, for quite obvious reasons, that I'm the right person to talk about it with a depth and sincerity. So I apologise, but it's definitely worth reading. It is absolutely the thing that people should be reading to give themselves an idea about what's going on in the history of the DC universe and how it's seen by people of colour. The fact that we still struggle to sell an awful lot of comic books with that kind of message is kind of worrying, and I'm hoping this might change it a little bit. That being said, why would it change it? Because this is a comic book review show after all. We're not getting into really fine details of politics here. Let's talk about the comic book. Well, first off, it's really, really good looking. It's the DC Black Label stupidly big size, which I generally don't like, but it allows them to do proper widescreen kind of stuff. Particularly great shot there of Batman and the Outsiders, and they do splash pages with the dialogue interwoven into it quite nicely. I want to say dialogue, I don't mean speech bubbles or thought bubbles. The entire thing is a fixed single person narration, nothing but box out text, and that works really effectively because it feels like it's just somebody telling you the story of their life. And when people are doing that, I look at they don't often like get into dialogue, and it's not always a case of well then he said it, well then she said, but that meant that he had to say. You don't really get that when people are telling you like a long form story about like a long period of time. What you get is broad strokes, feelings, emotions, or how they remember stuff and how their opinions might have changed from what they were thinking at the time to what they're thinking when they're telling it you. And that's an important factor because it is a history of the DC universe. Doing it the other way would be kind of weird. I was a little bit put off when I first started because it's like really, really text heavy, and I was thinking this might lack a little something when it comes to narrative flow, but it actually, because of their choice of doing it as first person perspective, looks really, really good, and it works fantastically. It is a bit more expensive than the usual stuff because again it's black label couch format, but if you're looking to try out something and you want to read like how the DC universe actually, looks to people who might not be the same as you, definitely worth a look. I would highly recommend it. And in case you're wondering, this is the variant cover, which is about to go into my comic book box right down here because I bought it off myself. It's really good. Anyway, that's it from me. I'm back in the shop tomorrow. I'll do another one then. Take it easy. Bye.